Amid economic globalization, international trade frictions intensified, especially the China-US trade war, profoundly impacting various countries' economic development. After Trump took office, he went straight for a head-on confrontation, wielding the tariff stick against China. As a key pillar of the national economy, the automotive industry naturally became one of the first sectors to be affected. It took only a few days for the tariff battle between China and the US over the automotive industry to reach a fever pitch. Is this an opportunity or a disaster? Will it lead to economic collapse or a comprehensive rise? Today, let's talk about what impact the high tariffs from the China-US trade war will actually have on China's automotive industry. Tariffs and trade wars, simply put, are when countries impose additional tariffs and set up trade barriers to restrict the entry of foreign goods into their own markets, thereby protecting their own industries. But this is not the first time the United States has engaged in a tariff war, and Trump is not the first American president to impose tariffs. In the short span of just over 240 years of American history, there have been no fewer than 6 major tariff wars. Of course, there have been countless covert and underhanded tariff policies as well. In 2018, the US government was the first to wield the tariff stick, launching trade wars against multiple countries. On the 2nd of April, 2025, Trump announced a 145% tariff on all Chinese imports, with a particular focus on automobiles, new energy vehicles, and auto parts, among which the tariff on new energy vehicles reached as high as 100%. Tariffs on auto parts rose from 75% to 25%. In response to the US provocation, China implemented corresponding countermeasures, imposing tariffs on imported goods originating from the United States, covering key sectors such as automobiles and semiconductors. This means that trade between China and the US has become almost mutually blocked, and the trade war has officially entered version 2.0. On May 12, 2025, China and the United States held high-level economic and trade talks in Geneva, Switzerland, and decided to suspend the implementation of the 24% tariffs for 90 days. Although this policy adjustment brought a brief easing to China-US trade relations, it was still underpinned by intense competition between both sides based on their own interests. Overall, the complexity and uncertainty of the trade situation still persist, making it difficult to achieve any fundamental change in the short term. Why are they fighting so fiercely? Let's first take a look at some data. In 2024, China's trade surplus with the US reached as high as $361 billion, accounting for 32.5% of China's global trade surplus. China's automobile exports are even more impressive. Data from the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers shows that in 2024, China's auto exports reached 5.859 million units, a 19.3% increase. New energy vehicle exports hit 1.284 million units, up 6.7%. This has put enormous pressure on American car companies. Giants like Tesla and General Motors are clearly feeling the threat from Chinese brands, especially in the field of new energy vehicles, where Chinese brands like BYD and Chery are performing exceptionally well in the global market. The Americans, looking at these numbers, are seeing red. Trump, citing the need to protect domestic industries and reduce the trade deficit, has thus ignited this far-reaching trade war 2.0. The automotive industry is a prime example of globalization, with a highly dispersed supply chain. China and the United States are the 2 largest automotive markets in the world, with China's automobile production exceeding 30 million units in 2024, while the US produces about 10 million units. Automobiles and their components involve multiple sectors such as steel, chips, and batteries. When tariffs go up, it directly affects costs and competitiveness. As a high-value added industry, the automotive sector has naturally become the main battleground in the contest between the 2 sides. The automotive industry is closely tied to employment, technology, and national competitiveness. That's why the trade war is especially fierce in this arena. The trade war is particularly intense here. So, what impact will this trade war have on China's automotive industry? The China-US trade war has caused the entire vehicle industry to face multiple challenges, such as soaring costs, export obstacles, and market contraction, while also bringing opportunities for localization and new energy vehicles. In February 2025, the United States imposed an additional 25% tariff on Chinese automobiles, causing the prices of Chinese cars exported to the US to lose their competitiveness outright. For example, a domestically produced SUV that originally cost 400,000 yuan might end up selling for 500,000 yuan in the US. So naturally, consumers won't go for it. Conversely, China also imposed a 25% tariff on American-made imported cars, causing the prices of brands like Ford and Jeep to instantly rise by 15 to 20%. Take the American Jeep Wrangler as an example. Its previous starting price was 499,900 yuan. But after the tariff, the starting price could reach around 670,000 yuan. Who can afford that? Consumers just turn around and leave, opting for cheaper domestic or European cars instead. In 2024, China's automobile exports reached 5.859 million units, a year-on-year increase of 19.3%, surpassing Japan for the 2nd consecutive year to become the world's largest car exporter. The US market accounts for only 1.7% of China's total car exports. After the trade war escalated, this market was almost completely closed off. Automakers like BYD and Geely have had to suspend their export plans to the US, scaling back their globalization strategies. To avoid tariffs, some car companies have chosen to build factories in China. Tesla's Shanghai factory is a successful example, but for companies like Geely that have announced plans to invest in building factories in the US, achieving mass production in the short term is indeed quite challenging. Similarly, American car companies like General Motors are also accelerating localized production in China to reduce tariff costs. However, high-end models still rely on imports, keeping costs high. The most noteworthy area remains the new energy sector. The trade war has brought both challenges and opportunities to this field. China's electric vehicle industry leads the world in batteries and electric motors. In 2024, China's new energy vehicle sales reached 12.866 million units, a year-on-year increase of 35.5%, ranking first in global sales for the 10th consecutive year, with unprecedented policy support. The U.S. has imposed a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, blocking brands like BYD and NIO from entering the U.S. market. This forces them to Europe or Southeast Asia, where competition is also intensifying. Overall, the trade war has put tremendous pressure on the automotive industry in terms of costs and market layout, but it has also forced car companies to accelerate localization and technological upgrades, with new energy vehicles in particular becoming the hope for Chinese automakers to break through. Under the trade war, the first to bear the brunt are, of course, domestic and American car brands. American brands have already been struggling in the Chinese market, and the trade war has only made things worse for them. In 2024, GM, Ford, and Jeep all saw their sales in China collectively drop by 15%, with their market share shrinking from 10% in 2018 to less than 5%. Why is it so bad? Well, first of all, there's the direct impact of tariffs. China imposed a 25% tariff on American-made imported cars, which directly increased the prices of mid to high-end SUVs like the Ford Explorer and large Jeep models by 15 to 20%. Secondly, American brands haven't done a solid enough job with localization. Although GM has a joint venture factory with SICK, and models like the Buick Envision and Cadillac CT5 are selling reasonably well, their high-end models such as the Cadillac CT6 and GMC Yukon still rely on imports, resulting in high costs and sluggish sales. Ford's situation is even worse. Changan Ford's product lineup is outdated, and models like the Explorer and Edge lack competitiveness. In 2024, sales dropped by 20% year-on-year. In 2025, General Motors announced an additional $1 billion investment in China, planning to expand local production, but it will be difficult to reverse the downward trend in the short term. In contrast to the struggles of American brands, domestic brands have demonstrated remarkable resilience and explosive growth during the trade war. In 2024, brands such as Geely, BYD, Changan, and Great Wall saw their market share in China surpass 50%, successfully capturing territory from American and some Japanese brands. What exactly has the trade war brought to domestic brands? First, market opportunities. Tariffs have driven up imported car prices, making consumers choose cost-effective domestic vehicles. Take BYD's Chin Plus DMI, priced at 79,800 yuan, with electric hybrid technology, fuel-efficient and smart. It sold over 500,000 units in 2024, squeezing market space for American and Japanese compact sedans. Second, new energy vehicles are the trump card for domestic brands. In 2024, new energy vehicles accounted for 40% of total car sales in China, and BYD firmly held the top spot globally with 4 million units sold, leaving Tesla far behind. The trade war has spurred unprecedented domestic policy support, with the government providing substantial subsidies and tax breaks for new energy vehicles. Advancements in battery and motor technology have further solidified China's global leadership in this field. CATL's power batteries have captured a 37% market share, providing strong support for companies like BYD and NIO. However, behind these opportunities lie significant challenges. While domestic brands have gradually secured a foothold in the Chinese market, when they set their sights overseas, especially on the US market, they are confronted with the formidable barrier of high tariffs. The hefty tariffs imposed by the US government on Chinese electric vehicles have severely undermined their competitiveness in the American market, making expansion there extremely challenging. As a result, domestic brands have had to shift their focus to markets in South America, Southeast Asia, and Europe. In 2022, Great Wall Motors invested in establishing a production base in Brazil, further expanding into the South American market. In 2023, BYD established a factory in Thailand, leveraging local resource advantages and market potential to promote the brand's localization in Southeast Asia. However, these markets are also highly competitive. German and Japanese brands, with their deep technological expertise and widespread brand recognition, hold significant positions in the market. For Chinese brands to stand out in such a competitive environment, they need to work twice as hard. Looking ahead, the trade war presents both pressure and motivation for domestic brands. The pressure comes from export restrictions and technological shortcomings, especially since the domestic production of chips and high-end components still requires time. The motivation lies in the global competitiveness of new energy vehicles. In 2025, BYD plans to launch more high-end models, such as the Yangwang U8 and U9, directly targeting brands like Porsche and Lamborghini. Geely is also entering the high-end electric vehicle market through its Zeekr brand. NIO, XPeng, and Harmony Intelligent Mobility are continuing to make strides in the field of smart technology, with autonomous driving technology advancing to new heights and expected to achieve further breakthroughs and upgrades. The global automotive industry landscape is quietly being reshaped, and both Chinese and American brands are seeking new footholds amid this transformation. The global auto industry's future isn't a single market competition, but a contest of comprehensive strength across multiple poles and dimensions. The China-US trade war's impact on China's auto industry is a severe test, yet also a historic opportunity for the Chinese auto sector to accelerate transformation and upgrading. Although the rise of trade barriers has temporarily blocked China's automotive industry from accessing some traditional markets, it has also forced companies to hone their internal strengths and enhance their technological innovation capabilities and core competitiveness. The turbulent trade war may very well be the critical juncture for China's automotive industry to achieve a leap from quantitative to qualitative change. Alright, that's all for this video. If you've gained new insights into the automotive industry, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.